Hello and welcome back to the Locker Room. I'm your host Spencer Ball, and today I'm joined by Austin Nasser to discuss the NBA. So first off, let's start off by talking about one of the preseason title favorites, the Brooklyn Nets. Currently sitting at 7th place in the Eastern Conference with a 29-24 record. A lot of people picked them to win the finals. They kind of grouped together 3 of the best players in the league, 3 superstars, but have definitely seen some issues with Harden being a little upset with both the team and with Kyrie not being available to play all the time. Of course, Kyrie only being able to play away games with the vaccine mandate in New York, and with Kevin Durant going out with a knee injury a few weeks ago, still being out a few more weeks. So what do you think happens with this preseason favorite team?
Well, when you look at Brooklyn, like you mentioned, their trio is probably the best scoring trio we've ever seen. With Kyrie, who can create his own shot, Harden, who can dish and score, as well as shoot the 3-ball, KD, probably the best pure scorer of all time. But when these guys aren't on the court together, you can't build that team chemistry, and you can't find a rhythm, and you're not going to have things won't come as easy to you when you're winning games. They're on an 8-game losing streak right now, and that's just not okay. They have to figure it out. James Harden is disgruntled. There's a lot of turmoil going on, and when you've got a superstar of KD's caliber out, it's a tough time to win games. Kyrie, like you said, can only play on the road, so they can't build this chemistry, they can't build this rhythm, and they won't be able to kick things into gear. So they've got other guys like Patty Mills, Joe Harris, Blake Griffin, but when the core isn't available on the court, you can't really find the rhythm and get things going. And that's why they've slipped all the way from the first seed just a week ago to now they're down in the play-in, which is a spot where we never expected Brooklyn to be before the season.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing to mention there, we've seen a bunch of their supporting cast, like you mentioned, go out with injuries as well. So even when part of the big 3 isn't able to play, they're also not getting the same production from the guys they could rely on just due to injury. And mentioning them being preseason favorites, some of the other favorites this time on the Western Conference, the Los Angeles Lakers, with a 26-28 record, also in the play-in right now at the 9 seed. So what do you think is going on out there? How do you think they can try and get back in the playoff race?
Yeah, you've heard a lot about Frank Vogel and his job security, whether he'll continue to be the coach of this team going forward. But I think the root of the problem, I don't want to put all the blame on this guy because he is a former MVP, but Russell Westbrook just can't be on the court in crunch time, and just the other night he didn't play against New York in overtime. When you've got a guy who's a former superstar, a big name like that, a personality, and he can't be on the court and he can't play to his ability in the fourth quarter and overtime, that's just not a good makeup for a team. And obviously Anthony Davis has played all but I think 12. He's only played in 12 games this season. That's just not good either. He's a superstar. He's probably a top 5-6 type of player when he's available and on the court. Everyone knows his talent. And obviously LeBron James still playing at an incredible level. I think 18 or 19 games in a row, scoring 25. He's still on a tear. No signs of slowing down, even at age 37. But with Russell Westbrook having one of the worst seasons of his career, that's a guy they traded for in the offseason that they expected to propel them into the Western Conference Finals and get back to the finals as they were a few years ago. So when he is playing like he is now, it's really tough to overcome that, especially with the age of this roster. They're very old. Everyone talked about them on social media as they've got the 2013 NBA All-Star team. They've got all these guys. You need some youth, and they've got that from Malik Monk. Malik Monk has been a great bright spot for this team early on in the season and going forward. He's put up 29 the other night in New York. He's really a great big-time scorer, but they need more of that. They need more of this youthful presence that's going to come off the bench and get them points. And on the defensive end, they're struggling. That's what they were known for when they won the finals a few years ago, one of the great defensive teams in the league, and they're just not getting it on both ends of the court.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll move on from the struggling Lakers and talk about the best team in the league. The Phoenix Suns they've stormed out to a 42-10 record so far, sitting atop the West which has definitely looked pretty strong this year, but they've separated themselves from the rest. As Devin Booker's got he's averaging 25 points a game. DeAndre Ayton, when he's been playing, he's dealt with some injuries recently, but he's averaging 16 points, 10 boards a game. And then you've got Chris Paul, just a floor general, managing them all out there. So do you think this team is going to slow down at all? And what do you see about them that could maybe lead them to a title victory this year?
I think Phoenix is a great example of a really, really good team, a well-constructed team who's built to succeed in the regular season. They've got pieces all around. They're deep. They've got shooters. They've got hard workers. They've got a lot of guys who are bought in by Monty Williams is a great coach. He's got these guys really, really invested, and he's got these guys really caring, and they're a good group. You can tell they love playing with one another, and it's not just one big superstar. Obviously, they've got 2 All-Stars in CP3, in Devin Booker, and then they've got a rising star in DeAndre Ayton, but they've got a core group, and I think they are built to not only continue succeeding in the regular season. I expect them to be the number 1 seed. Maybe Golden State makes a push, but I do expect them to be the number 1 seed. And then when you go into the playoffs, they were just in the finals last year. Now, I thought they were just going to be a one-season wonder maybe, and just, they got to the finals, they had a nice run, and maybe come back down to earth a little bit this season. But, as we see it, they're the last team to reach double-digit losses. That's impressive. They just only got their 10th loss this past week. So I think they will succeed. I'm not quite sure that I'm ready to say that they're going to be the team representing the Western Conference in the finals, because I do think the West has a lot of teams that could be there, like Golden State, like Utah. Maybe the Lakers make a run. But it wouldn't shock me at all if they're the team in the finals at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like they're kind of on a little revenge tour. They went up 2-0 in that finals and eventually fell to Milwaukee, but they're definitely looking strong right now, as does the rest of the West, which has the 3 best records in the league sitting at the top of their conference, with the Suns I just mentioned, the Warriors, as well as the Memphis Grizzlies sitting up there, and they've definitely surprised a lot of people. They're playing really good so far, but those 3 teams are the 3 best teams in the league as of right now. However, in the East, you see, there's only 1.5 games difference between the 1st seed and the 5th seed. And one team I really want to talk about is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tons of young talent on that team, and they just made a huge trade to acquire Karis LeVert. They traded away Ricky Rubio, a first-round pick, and then 2 second-round picks to pick up Karis LeVert, who's averaging over 18 a game. He's definitely a scorer and could... they're sitting at 4th in the East. They could they're clearly trying to make a push right now. Many of us kind of thought they would be a bit of a rebuilding team, get some nice young pieces, but they're looking to make a push in this Eastern Conference. So what do you like about them, and what do you think about them being a serious title contender?
Well, I really liked the roster makeup of Cleveland coming into this season, especially with Sexton and Garland in the backcourt. Now, Sexton goes down. You're thinking initially in the early part of the season, that's a devastating blow that they won't be able to overcome. He was probably their best player coming in this season, and they drafted Mobley. But when Sexton goes down, that gives a chance for other guys to step up. And Darius Garland, an all-star, first-time all-star, as the all-star game will be in Cleveland, so good for him. He's really stepped up. They've gotten great play out of their rookie, Evan Mobley. He's fantastic. They acquired Jared Allen. He's been amazing. I thought he was an all-star snub, personally. But when you look at the team, they are a bit young. I think they have a chance to maybe make some noise in the first round of the playoffs, but I'm not so sure I really believe and can buy into them going forward from that point. They're a young team. Ricky Rubio going down was kind of a loss on them, because that was partially their veteran presence that they counted on. But getting Karis LeVert back, that is a big pickup for them. That's a good wing scorer that they kind of needed. So if they can add just another wing scorer like they did with LeVert, that will help them going forward. I just don't see it when you look at the other teams in the East. Milwaukee's been there. Brooklyn's got the veteran guys. They've been there. And I really like Miami. I think they're probably one of the deepest teams in the league, and they've just been consistent all season with guys out. I don't know if Cleveland will make it to that point, but they definitely have a good chance of finishing up at the top of the standings in the regular season at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think they'll try and make a push in the postseason for sure. I do think they could pose a problem to some of these teams that have like a heavy inside presence, such as like the Sixers with Joel Embiid, or even, if they get matched up with Milwaukee, you could maybe see them, at least taking a few games away, because they've got guys like Jared Allen, Lauri Markkanen, Evan Mobley, as you mentioned. So big inside presence there, and they could maybe shock a team, try and try and startle them on the inside. And they've got, as you mentioned, some shooters. I mean, this is a pretty good team, and I don't think many people really expected it at all.
Yeah, first time back in the playoffs since LeBron James left them. So it's been a while for them. So good for them getting back. And that's going to be really exciting to look forward to come playoff time, see if they can make some noise.
Definitely. And as you mentioned, the All-Star game being in Cleveland, so we have a rematch of last year's captains. It's Kevin Durant in the East and LeBron James in the West. And the All-Star starters this year consist of Giannis, Steph Curry, DeMar DeRozan, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Ja Morant, Andrew Wiggins, and Trae Young. So, a few guys we haven't seen before in there. Andrew Wiggins, first-time All-Star starter. And then the rest of those guys have been having great years so far. So who do you think got snubbed, or who would you like to have seen in the All-Star game this year?
Well, I think they did a really good job this season. With guys being out, you got a lot of superstars out this year, so obviously there's going to be some fresh faces, some new guys in there. But come on, I don't think Andrew Wiggins is an All-Star starter. The guy's putting up 18, 4, and 2. Those aren't All-Star starters numbers, But I get it, you had to have a forward in there next to LeBron James. You could have maybe put Rudy Gobert in there as a starter and had two centers. But it's weird this year because usually we're talking about the snubs from the Western Conference because they're typically the deeper conference. But I think with the stars from the West being out, like Anthony Davis, Kawhi, Dame, Paul George, all these guys are out, so that opens up some spots. But it's really the East that had a lot of the talks and a lot of the controversy. I don't know that Fred VanVleet and Chris Middleton really deserved it over guys like Jared Allen. I personally would have put Jared Allen in because, they needed some size from the reserves in the Eastern Conference. And maybe Tyler Hero coming off the bench, giving 21 points a game, 5 assists. He's played fantastic this season. And then when you look at Charlotte, they had two guys who probably had a good case to get in, but maybe they split some votes. You got Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball. Could have easily seen either one of them getting in as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as you mentioned, most of the choices were pretty good. I also would have liked to see Jared Allen in there, as he's been great, definitely bolstering the inside for Cleveland, as we already mentioned. And also in the West, Andrew Wiggins, a lot of people weren't a fan of him as a starter. I think you also could have mentioned Karl Anthony Towns in the starter discussion there, but it's kind of, it's up in the air. I'm not upset about it. I'm just glad, we get to see another great All-Star game in Cleveland. This will take place on February 20th, and that's going to be all for us. For Austin Nasser, I'm Spencer Ball, and we'll see you next time.